A pleasant good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ren, and welcome back to another off season where we talk about University of the Bahamas alumni, student athletes, and of course our specialty, which is athletics. We talk about how do you become a Mingo. We talk about recruitment, and as well we learn from some of our alumni how they did it. So today it's my pleasure, and anybody who's noticed in the second segment of off season, we've taken time to find a lot of our alumnus and alumni who have what I say really done a great job at developing themselves, from doctors, that's medical doctors, and of course even PhDs. So it's my pleasure today to interview somebody who attended college when I was there, Mr. I call him Audi for short, but for today's episode we'll call him Dr. Audi for fun. And he'll understand that joke because I misunderstood this poster without his PhD. The boy got on me. He got on me pretty hard. But I respect that because that's a silly mistake, and he worked too hard for that. I couldn't believe I do that to him. So enjoy the episode. Today's episode is brought to you by iced tea. Drinking iced tea with lemonade today. That's how we living because you got to cool down. Actually, there's five fingers. Yeah, that's bush tea. It's bush tea. So waiting for Audi to log in. Thank you for logging in, everyone. To all our alumni who are starting to become fans of the series, thank you for logging in. This month, I think we had a lot of people. We had Julie, we had Garvin, G teared it up last episode. We dedicated 2, so he's gonna have a part 1 and part 2. He was the captain a few years ago, and he definitely sent a lot of praise to the current captain and soon to be graduate of the institution, Kinsey Sylvester. So this is gonna be a great show. As we wait for Audi to log in, anybody who thinking, Ren, why you didn't get a shape up? We in lockdown, y'all. It's illegal to get shape ups. Boy. Yeah, that's definitely bush tea. So I see everyone logging in. Thank you. Of course, the show starts exactly at 6 o'clock. Just making sure the network is stable so we have a great show. Make sure nothing happens. Everything looks to be clean. So, and Audi is here. Well, me and Audi got to talk about this. Why is Chef Boy Audi? Who is Chef Boy Audi? I don't know Chef Boy Audi. No of these people. Audi, I got you right now, bro. I just want to pull up your flyer. I'm on you right now. Chef Boy Audi. What is Chef Boy? Audi, if you could send an invite to come in. I was trying to send you an invite, but it looks like it's rendering or something. I don't know. Doody 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 doo. Birdie 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 boo. I wonder if I should switch to Wi-Fi. I trust my data though. Are you still inside, right? Send me a request to join, Audi. Oh, we disconnected. What time is it? It's 6 o'clock exactly. Alright, I see the request. See if that did it. Alright. Saying I'm waiting on you, Audi. Saying I'm waiting on you. Alright. You able to connect? Alright. There we go. We're looking at the floor today. Shoes and everything. This boy fancy.
That's funny.
I can never stop being me, but I can be me until I die. Audi, it's a pleasure. And for the show, boy, you know, I said it before you came on. I be calling you Dr. Audi. Just because of that PhD thing, you know. I accidentally didn't put your PhD and you got on me. So for this show, use Dr. Audi. I don't hear it. It's declared done.
Hey, I'll always be Audi, but in the professional world, they could choose to use it if they want to.
Yeah, man. So my primary first question has to be, how are you doing, buddy? Like, where are you now, and how is the lockdown effect or the COVID-19 pandemic affecting you?
Right now in Florida, and between Miami, Melbourne, and Gainesville, pretty much being working remotely. So, in regards to the COVID and the lockdown, I would say for me personally, it has been somewhat of a liberation in terms of not necessarily having to go into work and having that time for me to just,
Don't let
I
me know
know
that.
everybody won't hear this. Everybody won't hear this, right? But nonetheless, it's like I've been tired of hearing people complaining about them working from home. But it's like for me personally, it's been a blessing in itself because now it's like I can control when I get up, when I go sleep. I just need to make sure I get the work done during the time of work. And then once I'm done, it's just a matter of, taking a couple of steps and you're in your bed. And, that's about it. So,
So
the
what
time.
give us five of those tips, man. Give us five tips, and of course we just had our first ever virtual NSO, right? New student orientation. For any freshmen who may be listening to this on the podcast or maybe even listening for the first time today, what are five tips you could give them on how they stay focused during this lockdown?
The first thing, I think, whether it's you play any sport, you are involved in any extracurricular activity, the first thing is discipline. You must be able to discipline yourself in terms of what it is that you want to do and finding a set time and routine to what it is that you want to get accomplished. The next thing, find something you enjoy doing, whether it's reading a book, listening to music, writing, any of those things. Those will actually help you. Even if you were a gardener, plant something and just watch something grow. So with those aspects, it can help you cope with those uncertainties in terms of finding something that for certain is going to be within your daily activity. A third thing, I would say, reach out to your family and friends that you haven't spoken to in a while. Get in contact with them, find out how they're doing, because just having your loved ones definitely does something different for you in the long run. Laugh. I would definitely say laugh. Find something to laugh about. Listen to Rembrandt once in a while.
Oh boy. Say, listen to Rembrandt once in a while. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it first. Listen to Ren, watch the show.
And the last thing, it's like I wouldn't say it's the last thing on the list, but nonetheless, reconnect with God and your spiritual well-being, and making sure that you are in connection with those aspects of your life that you depend a lot on. Faith, hope, those things are the driving force in terms of what you strive for tomorrow, because even though today is uncertain, with having the faith and the hope that tomorrow is going to be better, it gets you up in the morning to do something and get the day started.
So, man, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to another off season with your host, Ren, brought to you by the University of Relations as well as University Athletics Department. And Audie, I think the first thing is to break down, because you would officially be our first person or past athlete I know who's on the show with that PhD. So tell us, what area do you specialize in?
So my PhD was in applied mathematics with a specialty in partial differential equations, non-linear hyperbolic specifically. So that was my specialty.
Take a pause. Wait, I saw when you go out on the first date with a girl, she's be sipping on wine, and when you go, just shoot, she just finished the whole thing. Like, Jesus, husband, come on. No, bro, break that down again. Now you gotta break that down. Using a lot of big words, you're confusing me. What? Break it down. Break it down.
And simplicity for those math majors or people who do math in terms of engineers. If you have done calculus 2, I know a lot of people are scared of calculus. So there is a part of calculus when you do some partial differential equation techniques. It's usually just ordinary differential equation where you have a function and you try to break it down into a linear aspect of it so you can solve it using your calculus fundamentals. So this is all. It's pretty much a complicated equation, and you try to break it down to the simple equation and solve it. So if you know how to do 1 plus 1 and you have, let's just say 1 plus 1 plus 1, you break it down to 1 plus 1 first, find the answer for that, and you do 2 plus 1, which is 3, and you get your answer. So if you want to look at it, those simpler forms, it's looking at something that's in a complicated form and bend it down to a way that you can solve it using the simplest forms of solving an equation possible that you know, and ensuring that the equation have those conditions that are necessary for you to solve it in that form. So
If I could apply this
that's
to
it.
real life, are you saying that your mind is able to take complex things and break it down better than the average person?
I would say math always does us for anybody. If you do any major analysis in math, it always, for some reason, clarifies your mind for you to see complex things in a simpler way. But nonetheless, when you're in academia, you try to find a simpler thing and complicate it so that you can publish it in the paper or in a journal. So, but if you
Way to go,
understand it
bro.
simply, if you understand it simply, you can always complicate it more. So if you can understand a complicated situation simply, then you can take that simple understanding and complicate it even more for someone else.
I'm going
So
to take your advice. I'm going to go with laughter. So, do you understand women?
no.
Oh, but you my boy. I didn't even have the right questions for you, but I didn't have the right questions. So let's get down to the I would say some of the food that people come here to eat, right? So Audi, when you was at COB, boy, did you ever see yourself where you are now?
What a segue. No. No. Hell no.
You gotta like. I remember you were quiet, you were athletic. I remember you, but it's like you from day one was doing my tutoring, but I don't know if it's for the money or for the love, but from day one, all I remember is play. Just to do those to my tutoring. Jofi even sent me to you, but after I failed midterm, I tell Jofi, listen, everybody don't need much, you know. And I never came to you. I dropped his course. I lost a bet. I lost a bet with Jofi, and I fine with that. But
We all have lost another Jofi.
but start off your journey first. What high school did you come from? Tell us about your transition into COB back then, and then of course, how did you get involved with UB Athletics? It's a three-part question, but you got this.
Okay, so I would say high school, if I start from primary school, it was Stephen Dillett. Going into CC Sweden Junior, I played 1 year of basketball in the ninth grade, and I played soccer from grade 8 straight to grade 9. But I think in the previous episode, as I listened, it's like with the fundamental knowledge and appreciation that you get in terms of exposure at the junior school level, you don't necessarily get the fundamentals pretty much. It's more so you just kicking around the ball, you just doing things for the fun of it. But I would definitely go with, say, basketball, we had the fundamental aspect, but everything else in terms of sport I played, that fundamental was not there. Going into C.R. Walker, which is where I went for high school, Knights Nation, and for all the Knights that are out there, big ups, C.R. Walker, Knight, boom. But anyways, right, so going there, it's like soccer was still an integral part of what I did. But nonetheless, I tried out on the track team, pretty much in the field events, because that's what I was more interested in, because I wasn't a great runner. So soccer from grade 10 up to 12. Volleyball was always something I was interested in, but never had the confidence or guts enough to try it because I always thought I sucked at it. It wasn't until the 10th grade, one of my friends was like, Audi, you should try for the volleyball team. And I was like, no, but I ain't got the time for that because there was so many things happening with myself and home and everything else that, I didn't have the time for me to do all of these things. But nonetheless, in grade 11, I was like, you know what, let me just try it. And, I tried out for the team. Coach Brown was the head coach back then. And he did a lot of stuff in terms of trying to develop those fundamental aspects. And that was one of the first times I've ever been on a team. Then there was that fundamental in terms of ball playing that he went into the nitty gritty of the fundamentals. And I was so blown away by it. Track, we had the fundamentals in terms of that kind of stuff because we had Coach Brista, who was the head coach of the track team back then. So he made sure you understood what was needed and bring the history as well. Played on Grand Team and volleyball. The discipline that he actually instilled in us as being on his team was out of this world. It's like something I've never been exposed to in terms of playing sport my entire life. We lost in the playoff, the first round, even though we had the number 1 seed. 12th grade, I didn't want to go back because we lost. It sucked losing in the championship game and playoff and whatnot. And then grade 12, we came back. His dad came and also tried to help us in terms of learning the nitty gritty as even further down than Coach Grant was able to bring it. He was able to go down even further. So it's like breaking everything we had and going back to the fundamentals and trying to build us up from that aspect of it. And I enjoyed that. And then we ended up winning the championship that year, and that was like the best experience of my entire life.
Congrats.
So I'm going to the COB. going into COB is like, I can't. Coach Brown was like at the end of grade 12. He's like, you know what? You should try. You should go on try out for COB's team, the soccer team. I was like, in my head, I'm like, why are you telling me to go try for the soccer team? Because I played volleyball on your team. It's like, why would you actually tell me to go try for the soccer team? And then he's like, well, you know, it's soccer team. It's like it's just development, so I'd recommend that you go and do it. You have a better chance of actually getting on the team because you are more athletic. You got discipline and all of these intrinsic values that I didn't necessarily know I had. He was able to kind of highlight those aspects and let me know why I would be successful on the team. You know, I didn't want to go to college, even though you said that. I was like, I'm not going to go to COB. Like you asked me if I've been at COB if I thought I would be here right now. It's like college and in general was not anything I wanted to do. I just wanted to get done with high school, finish my 3 years of CR Walker, get a job, you know, do the family man thing, and then call it that. But
let's take a pause there, though. I want to go there again. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is somebody who already obtained his PhD, who has been very academic. I would say almost a professional student, who is saying that he didn't even want to go to college. So, give us some more. Like, why not college at all? Like, normally people say not COB, I want to go abroad, but just saying you didn't even want to go to college. Break that down for us.
You asking, so with the reason behind it is like, with all those, I guess the limitations and difficulties in terms of me being a Haitian national and my parents being Haitian, there were borders, speed bumps, roadblocks, all of these things that definitely was highlighted in front of me saying, okay, well, because you don't have the status and don't have these, and I didn't have the finances either, because you don't have any of these things, it's impossible for you to do these things. So by that, in terms of family, environment, all of these things that was happening around me, it's like seeing those things and everybody around me not being able to accomplish those things, like, okay, well, you know what? And out of it, I would rather not try than for me to try and fail. Pretty much that was my mentality. It's like I would rather not even put an application than for even to put myself out there for me to have the sense of being rejected from COB or any institution for that matter of fact. It's like I wasn't a dumb kid. It's like I was playing sports and plus I was keeping a 3.3 average every single year, and I was a valedictorian of my class. It was like even with all of these academic accolades, knowing that I didn't have the finances, knowing that I didn't have the citizenship or the documents for me to apply, all of these things kind of kept me from actually wanting to apply to any institution for me to further my education. So that was pretty much the reason. Those were the reasons why, and it's like I just didn't want to do it.
I want to step into the future for a second. So when I saw that video of you and your mom at your graduation hugging and crying, like all I was this, like, boy, they don't know, mommy. That like just fast forward to the present though. Like, what did that moment mean for you? Attaining that PhD, your parents and your family being there. What did that moment mean?
It's like you might cause me emotional in this interview, man. I can't do that.
That's cool. So. No. Be recording. You think I ain't gonna cut this out? I put this all
over. So it was like, I think in terms of education for myself, because in her growing up, coming from 11 plus siblings, she didn't have the chance for her to actually go away or even had the exposure to education herself. She always wanted to instill in us that the importance of education. It's like go to school, get good grades, and the basic stuff that parents tell their kids to do. But it's like when I saw that she was so interested in actually us going into school, I was like, you know what? It's like I don't want to be in school, but just because she wants me to be here and she sees that it's gonna value me in the long run, I'm gonna do it just for her. So I did it. I pretty much went to school just saying I'm just gonna do these things just to make sure that she see what the value of education is and how well education can play out in terms of our future. And then it was like graduating from COB, she didn't get a chance to be there because she wasn't in the Bahamas. But then having the opportunity to kind of graduate with a PhD and her being there, and it's just was like, God damn, it's like all this time I've been doing this. And it's like coming here and seeing how proud she is of this moment and how much I cherish her views and her opinion based on what it is I accomplished, whether it's in the education field or personally. It was like, it was so real. And in that moment, she was crying, and it's just like I hug her, and it's like this rush of emotion just came off of me, and I just started bawling myself.
But hey, I would have a no other day, but that's to know where you come from and to know these realities you share. And few people even do it. And again, shout outs to the UB Athletics program. We're gonna go back to your admissions in the athletics, but shout out to the leadership of athletic director Kimberly Roll, who one thing I know she says for sure is she don't care about nationality. You show a talent, she finds a way. So tell us about your transition coming into to COB. Was it easy? Did you have to deal with which side of his role you had to deal with? That's kind of my real question, but that's
I, pretty much I didn't have to deal with any of it. I dealt with a good side because I think I stayed on the good side throughout the entire thing. But there was only this one occasion that I actually had to deal with a bad side, and I'm not even gonna mention it, anyways, right?
all
But
right.
but my transition to COB, it was it was not as normal as every freshman, because because I didn't enroll the COB, I didn't come in the fall. So spring 2019 was my first. Spring 2009 was my first semester.
Stop. My boy, Mr. Dr. Audi said spring 2019 was my first semester. But now I have my PhD, y'all. Y'all need to hear this story.
No, no. It's like spring 2009 was my first semester,
all right.
but before that semester, it's like I had done so many things in terms of practicing with the volleyball team that I didn't have to worry about the nitty-gritty and the headaches of what the freshmen were going to deal with in terms of new student orientation. But nonetheless, I was inside the office almost every week, making sure that my application was done properly, and anything that was missing, I wanted to get on top of it. And it became to a point where Coach Basti and the Secretary Petula Russell and Mrs. Roll, they saw me in the office, like, "Boy, you here again?" I was like, "Yeah, I here. I got to make sure everything's straight." But in transition in terms of academics, it's like it wasn't rough for me, because it's like I had that discipline in me for me to actually get my work done, and ensure that I get my work done in practice as well. So it's where if I was in class, if I was studying, it was only that. If I was at practice and I was doing runs, whatever drills we was doing, it was that. It wasn't where that I was at practice and I was saying, "Okay, did I solve this problem? Did I get this work done?" It's like if I'm at practice, I enjoy practice to the fullest. And if I do my schoolwork, I enjoy my schoolwork to the fullest. So when you see me practice and you see me playing games, it's like it was a totally different me in terms of what people saw. When you saw me doing my schoolwork, it was a totally different person as well. So it's like I was living two different selves in those two different avenues.
And how and doing that, I mean, you maintain your GPA like you said, and your dedication. But how were I would say the privileges or benefits of the program back then as a soccer player? Tell us about it.
Listen to me. Having to register in advance before everybody else, and getting your schedule set up in a way that you have practice associated with it, and you can actually put in time for you to go and do other things outside of school. That was a dime a dozen. Having the ability to go off in terms of performing in sport and activities, I got to travel with the volleyball team when it was still there. Getting to go off with the soccer team to play against higher level of competition, that was awesome. The coaches that she ensured that she got for us to dedicate their time and resources to making sure that we got better, that was awesome. It was like, it wasn't the genesis phases of what the program could be, but nonetheless, it was like the work that was being put into play by Miss Rule and everything else that now everybody reaping now today. It's like they can't imagine what we had to go through and what it was that the program had to go through in order for it to be at the position that it is right now. CNDs.
I don't want you to rush this point. You keep saying something, and I was waiting for somebody in the timeline to say it, but nobody's saying it. Audie, you keep saying that you were on the male volleyball team at COB. Are you saying that there was a male volleyball team, Audie, at the College of the Bahamas?
Yes, there was.
Every freshman is asking about why y'all don't get a male volleyball team. Audie, go on about that, please.
So,
for the record, this made me feel old. These students who's coming has made me feel old, but anyway, but go on about the volleyball team, please.
So, but I think it was 2000, and from the time I got in the COB, not really NCOB, from fall 2008, which is where I first was introduced to COB, straight up to 2011, they had a men's team. And unfortunately, due to circumstances with some of the athletes in terms of violating what the code of conduct was for athletes when we traveled and what they were not supposed to do, some of the guys had decided to kind of have their way in terms of thinking they was above pretty much what protocol is. And unfortunately, they did it, and then they decided to post a video of the incident on social media. So this is the side of Michelle I had to see when this incident happened, because it's like this incident happened in the room that I was in. And it was like, coming in, it was like, were you involved in it? And I was like, no. But I was like, but in me being in a position to kind of have my integrity, my my persona, my character put on the line in terms of having to be, I guess, judge and jury aspect of it put in court, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like I would never thought I would find myself in this position where I would feel as though I violated something I knew that was fundamental in terms of us making sure we adhere to when we were on an international trip. And so it was like, this was the side of the show I had to see. So yes, everybody was watching. There was a males volleyball team, but unfortunately for those that did not see the future and the well-being that Ms. Rowe was trying to instill in the college and trying to develop a program of higher caliber, they kind of felt as though they need to take things in their own hand and kind of put the program at a disadvantage in terms of what it could have been, and actually cutting the funding and completely eliminating the program off the books completely. So
hey, it's good to hear it from you, bro. To be honest, we still have, and I want to focus on this again. We still have this problem with social media where a lot of athletes and people coming in, even freshmen, they believe just because this page don't follow them that we can't see them, right? And we have had to suspend or discipline so much athletes of just being, in my choice of words, just stupid on social media. Like you have a whole school. Watch this. Let's do a comparison. Audi, y'all had a meal plan?
no.
All right, they have a meal plan. Audi, of course, y'all travels, right? But of course, if you're watching, they travel more than you guys used to, right? Registration straight. Audi, did you have on campus jobs?
No.
They have on campus jobs, bro. Do you know that about a year or two ago, they even developed a whole section of the the residential campus that was only UB athletic student athletes in it, boy?
What?
Play all these privileges Ms. Riola's made, and it hurts my heart to see so much young and honestly, my choice of words, you could quote me, sometimes stupid individuals ruin something for the future. And it's the same thing with just saying. We may have still had a male volleyball team because they still do the National League here. We may have still had a team if it was not for the I don't even want to say, just the bad judgment of a few people. I got to change my word. But it's sad to say, right? And
Right.
having going through that, and of course now we're going to talk about you transitioning from male volleyball to soccer. Tell us what happened in between that, going from being on the volleyball team. Was there a panic maybe in that you lost your scholarship? What happened?
Oh, listen to me. It's like the scholarship was my lifeblood to see you be okay. So it's like going into Miss Rose's office and hearing this particular thing in terms of the volleyball team being eliminated off the program's list. I was like, so now what is going to happen to me? Because like the scholarship was my only way of financing my college education. And then it was like, I think it was maybe a day later, Miss Rose called me back to the office. And it was like, we have investigated the situation, and some of the athletes said that you were not involved in the entire situation that happened during that time. And she said, well, there's not going to be any volleyball anymore. So now you're going to have to play soccer. And I was like, well, it's good for me that I could actually go and transition to the soccer team, because I already played soccer for such a long time, and I was already training with the soccer team and being a two sport athlete. So now it's kind of, okay, well, go over to the soccer team and then you're going to keep your scholarship. And when I heard that, I was like, thank goodness. Because it's like, if this was to happen to me, and even though it wasn't my fault, but nonetheless, we were all responsible for the actions of those. We were all responsible for the action that was taken by our other teammates. And everybody who had scholarship in regards to that, if they did not play another sport, they were totally gone. And it's fortunate, I think about 2 or 3 of us, we were dual. We played multiple sports, and we were able to kind of go to different sports because we were not involved in that particular process. But going over to the soccer team and training under Coach Van Dyke, it was like it's like I never had a proper trainer for soccer as well. But then him, he was like, well, I have a lot of things that I need to get into work with you because it's like you have the raw athleticism, you have that
Mm.
instinct, but nonetheless, I need to refine you in terms of the fundamentals and the technical aspect of of what it means to be a soccer player. And when he actually took me and started to training me and doing those things with me, I saw the game in such a different manner and such a different beauty that it kind of transitioned my appreciation and love for the sport to another level.
Audi, I have to mention a bias. You are the first proud Haitian I've ever met who literally just was naturally talented at soccer. I have to say that. I've never, like any, from of course, even Kimsey. Kimsey's play soccer, right? But
Mhm.
everybody who I know who have that Haitian background, when it comes to soccer, they just be like, drop the ball. And they just start moving. I just be like, calm down, but like, just ain't no league. Just be like, no, you can't play. And they just kill my ass. They just kill me. I could take a cut up. But this is the story, ladies and gentlemen, that we want to hear. He's coming with a wealth of knowledge. Of course, he's been talking about his athletic career with the university, and it's good to hear that the college could have provided an avenue for you to get where you are now, and that you can see it as well. That's very good. I want to ask now, after graduation, just to skip a few because you know we only have for a short time. So you graduated. I think that was your associates or bachelor's. What was it?
Bachelor's.
Bachelor's. So you got your bachelor's. How was that transition going on for your master's? And yeah. How was it? Did you wait long or did you just go straight off?
It's like finances. I would say finances definitely was always a hindrance in terms of deterrence from me making a decision for what I was going to do next. It was whether job or go off to school. Unfortunately for me, when I applied to a few colleges and I got accepted, one of them offered me a graduate student assistantship, which is pretty much they pay for my tuition and plus I get to teach and they give me a stipend as well. The transition from being a student athlete, where I think in terms of today we kind of think that a student athlete doesn't exist, but I think for myself I considered myself a student athlete. I was a student and I was an athlete. I did well in pretty much both avenues. Going into grad school, it was like, well, there's no more sports for me. It's not now all about my books. And it's like with that discipline, the discipline that I got from actually being a student athlete and kind of ensuring that everything was done in the right time that it needed to be done. I took that over to my grad studies. It's like studying time, there was a time to study. Going out, I got to make sure I schedule that within my, everything else. Hanging out with friends, whether it be, it's a good thing that the school had intramurals where you play sports for fun and you pretty much just make a team and you play for fun. So that kept me active. And I think with all the training and everything else that I did as an athlete, I tried not to kind of go away from it, still going to the gym, still, eating right, still practicing, even though we didn't really was playing just for fun, still actually putting in practice for me to actually get better. So those are the things that I did in terms of an athlete. I still maintain those and still sticking to my book in terms of what was important. We're getting my studies done, ensuring I got the grades for me to pass and maintain the scholarship that I had. Because it's always that I feel that from my undergrad to my grad, it's always the fact is that I needed to make sure I keep my grades up. Because if my grades were not up, then I would lose the financial lifeline that I had for me to actually continue my studies. So I think in terms of student athletes, we tend to think that as long as I do well in my sport, I'm going to keep my scholarship. And then we say, okay, well, I only had to play the sport and I don't really care about my books. But at the end of the day, you got to understand that you have to find a counterbalance between those two in terms of making the grade and also ensuring that you are at practice and maintain a high level of competition and making sure your body stay in shape for you to compete and do what it is that you have to do on and off the court or the field.
I'm no question, but this wasn't on the list, but I have to ask this. Did you find yourself with more time once you kind of give up the sport? Because I thought back to my final semester, right? When I wasn't in Cobus, dude, I got a 3.7 the semester I wasn't in Cobus. Every other semester is like a 3.3, 3.4. And the main reason I found out was that I just had more time. So talk about that. Not having to go to practice, not having to do assessments, not having to fly out every weekend for games, and then going off your grad. Did it already put that training in that, hey, I have way more time than I planned. Talk about that.
Yeah, man. Hey, when you have time on your hand, hey, it says I think it's an old adage that goes about something with the devil in time, something
Mhm.
about along those lines, right? So
Yeah.
when I found myself with a lot of time on my hand and not knowing what to do with all that time, and sometimes I'd find myself studying so much that I'm like, why am I studying so much? It's like I could be doing so much other things, but
Hmm.
then it's like not having that set schedule with anybody having to tell me when to get up for practice, when we're going to travel, when to get up. It's like now it's all on me with all this time trying to determine what to do with it. And it was a lot. At first it was a lot. It's like culture shock, like, hey, deal with this. And it's like, how do I deal with this? But then eventually, as you start to develop a routine and find something that is common with you in terms of what you're accustomed to, you start to put things into perspective on how well to actually partition those things so that you can be effective and still be successful within whatever it is you have to do.
Boy, that's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up to the final two questions, of course. We have a lot of people dropping questions already, so I want to tackle one of them. Somebody's asking what degree you got, and I want you to just state at every level what degree you got so everybody can know.
At COB, which is now the University of Bahamas, I got a bachelor's in science and mathematics. At Florida Institute of Technology, FIT in Melbourne, Florida, I got a master's and PhD in applied mathematics with a concentration in partial differential equations.
No, do the long one. Do the long one. Come on, babe. Come on, babe. You know, I already done said. Wait, I
That's
ain't gonna lie.
right.
If I had the paper, bust the line again, babe. Show them how you get the gas. Bust it again. Do it. Say the whole degree. Go, babe.
No, the gas is drum. They say that. That's why I got to keep it simple.
No, give him the complicated one, babe. Just do it, babe. Let
so,
him
uh,
do it.
so applied mathematics, PhD in partial differential equations with a concentration in nonlinear hyperbolic equations. That's it.